Hey guys, thanks for joining me, and if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hi friends and welcome to Sharp Ends. Today we're going to have a crash course in customization. Customization can come in many different forms when we're talking about knives. There are some companies that are better at providing a platform in which to customize, and there are some companies that provide really great services for customization. There are a lot of reasons to do customization. If you have a custom knife, then you put your input in your creativity, then you end up getting back something that can be much more interesting than your standard knife. The best brands for customization really can be a lot of different things. The biggest companies that make the biggest production knives are obviously going to be the ones that have a lot of secondary companies making other stuff for them. There are some companies that have customization tools on their websites, like Benchmade has a build your own knife, which is great. You don't have to do any of the work. Now, I find the process of actually picking out knives and deciding how I'm going to make them look is exciting and fun. The very first knife I ever customized was a very cheap knife. It's called the Ontario Rat number 2. This is a D2 version. It's a cheap knife. I can't remember how cheap it is, but anyone who's ever reviewed this knife says how great it is. It has a couple of flaws with it in that it's put together with these 4 spacers, these back spacers here. And you can easily strip out these screws when you take them apart. So you just have to be really careful and use high quality tools when you are customizing things. I would say that in general, if you're going to get into customization and maintaining your knives, which you should, that when you customize your knife, you need to take it apart. And when you take it apart, you need to oil it and clean it correctly. There are a lot of people who show you how-to videos to do that. I would say that going to Nick Shabazz and looking at his vast, extensive library of how to take apart knives and his tool selection would be a good way to go. I might do my own version of that video sometime, but for now I would just say WeHa bits are great, and that iFixit makes a great bit holder. Also, I have a WeHa bit guy with a big handle. I like this guy because you get a lot of torque on this. This scale, this Paisley scale, comes in many different colors, and it's made by guys over at Way of Knife. They are a gateway drug into customization. The Rat was a knife that I experimented with. I changed the scales a couple of times. I liked this black DLC coating, which stands for Diamond Light Coating, and I like this Paisley, so I got these Paisley scales. Now, the first ones I got from them were dark purple and black, and I couldn't see the Paisley-ness of it at all. And I wrote to them, and they quickly replaced it. The guys over there are great at taking comments and fixing what you want them to fix. So this was my first foray into that. So Way of Knife and EDC Warehouse, they are amazing guys, and I will link them down below. You should definitely check them out. They have a lot of different packages and services, and we're going to talk more about them as we go on. There's also a guy named Ben who designed the baby banter, the banter, and the full-size banter. He comes up with different kinds of scales for his banters, so this is a very easy thing to do. So changing the scales is the first thing that you can do, right? The scales are easy to swap in general. Some companies do it better than others. You usually have to take the knife apart to some degree and take the pivot screw out in order to change the scales on most knives. This is an easy one to do. I really like the custom print on this, and sometimes you're lucky and you end up picking out, and this has got the Space Kitty on the other side, which I love the Space Kitty. So sometimes you're lucky and there's a drop on a custom set of scales and you get it. This is one of those examples where there was a limited amount of these made. and I was able to get it. I also, from Black Cross Leather Goods, was able to get this Ultim bead and added on this special lanyard, which I like a lot, right? So that's great. I love Ultim. Speaking of Ultim, ProTech. So what is customization? Customization to me means that you either hire a company to do it for you and do something special, or that you buy components and you put it together. The fun for me is, like I said, figuring out and designing stuff. There's also production knives that are out there. That this is the SRB from ProTech, and they will customize their knives themselves. This one has an Ultim show scale on it, which I think is great. But I don't necessarily call that customization. I mean, I guess it is, but it's a different kind, right? You're getting them to do it for you, right? Along that same line, there are some companies that are better at making easier to change scales. So here we have TRM. TRM, or Three Rivers Manufacturing, all American made, including the steel and everything on this knife. They do great machining. Their laser machining on their knives, or their CNC machining on their knives, is incredible. When you buy a new set of titanium scales for their Atom, they also send you a very nice clip, an upgraded clip. So this is cool because you don't have to take out the pivot. This, in order to change the scales, you just take out this screw and this screw right here, and voila, you've got a new look. So you can change out your scales as much as you want, and you can say one day I want that kind of scale, another day I want this kind of scale. I personally have this Holy Nerd from TRM and the other one with these titanium scales, and I love them, and I don't change them that much because I think that they're beautiful the way that they are. What else do we have? So while we're talking about TRM, I'll show you this Atom too. So Amplify EDC, I think it's Amplify EDC, makes custom scales, and they make some really cool stuff. This is a koi scale that they make, and this, I think this might have been an exclusive too. I don't know if this is easy to find or not anymore. It probably isn't easy to find anymore, but I really like this koi, and I really like this on this Neutron. It, to me, is a nice show dress knife. So that makes a statement for me, and I like to wear that on certain occasions. The second knife I ever customized was actually a Benchmade. So Benchmade and Spyderco are two companies who have platforms that have been around forever and are considered staples. One of them is the Bug Out. So I was able to get these Flytanium, and Flytanium is another company you want to look up. They make replacement scales, very cool scales, and Benchmade, Bug Out, very well-known company. Now, their usual scales are basically this plastic material. I don't think they're even G10. I can't quite remember what they are. I'm seeing if I can find them, the old scales. I cannot find the old scales real fast here. But anyway, changing this to titanium did not add much weight to the Bug Out. It also made it much more rigid and feel like a totally different knife, which I like. Here I have tons and tons of extra scales. These scales are the ones that usually came with the knife, and then I upgraded it to other things. Next, I think we should go ahead and dive into Spyderco. So Spyderco is one of those platforms, one of those knives that are quintessential to the knife world. A lot of people find their way into the knife world by getting a Tenacious or some kind of cheap Spyderco knife, and then they realize there's better Spyderco knives. That's certainly how I got into it. And then I realized, hey, there's not only better knives, there's better steel, and there's ways of customizing it. So this Indela, which is a cross between an Endura and a Delica, is a mid-size knife between those two knife brands with the lock on the back. It's very much a work knife. I didn't like the G10 scales that came with it, and I really wanted to try out Micarta, so I was able to get this made for me by a guy on Etsy. Gives it a whole new feel. And while I was there, I went ahead and started changing my clips. So this is a steel clip that I got off of eBay, super cheap. I got a set of 3 or 4 of these, and they're just plain steel. And they're a deep carry clip, not a regular carry clip. So I felt Like this was like, all right, so now I'm really starting to pick my knife, the knife steel, which this is 20 CV, and the handle material that I want with it, and the deep carry clip, right? After that, I also got a larger knife, and then I started getting some special customized scales as well. So this one is very cool because the spider sits in the middle of the spider web. And I thought that was very cool. This is the Endura. I'm mixing them all up. Endella. This is the Endella, I think. Anyway, this is the large bit guy, and this was the knife that I was carrying the base model of in VG10. This is a 20 CV version, but the VG10 version was the one where I got it and I was like, wow, look at this. This is a really cool knife. And then I started looking at all of other Spyderco knives. I was like, why are they so expensive? And that led me down the rabbit hole of knives in general. So I like this. I honestly don't carry it that much anymore, but it's a great work knife. Next, I want to talk about Demko. So when Demko came out, they came out with their original knives with the Grivery handles. And I didn't necessarily like that plastic, but I really liked the lock mechanism. And I really liked the way that it felt in the hand and the ergos. Now, I have upgraded it continually from the original AUS 10 steel. This is the D2 version. And I got this with the burlap sack, or the burlap micarta. And I really like the way that this feels. It is a rather thick knife, but this burlap also came with this spacer back here, which burlap spacer, which is great, and it's something you need to think about in some of your other knives, because sometimes you're getting a scale, but the spacer will be the wrong color. That happened with this Endella here. It actually has this red plastic right in here for the spacer, and it didn't come with a micarta spacer, but it blends in fine with this. So I like this knife. And then I got my first set of Lynch clips. Lynch NW is a company you want to check out. They make titanium clips and other EDC goods. This deep carry clip, they make these clips for this in almost every color, and they do it for Benchmade, Spyderco, Demko, and several other popular knife brands. Some of these, some people really do not like the Spyderco clip, and honestly, I don't really like it either. I think it fits well with this particular knife, so I've kept it that way. But the deep carry clip is very nice. This is not Flytanium. This is a China-made one. I do, so yeah. So Demko. And then, you know, I really went off the deep end and I was like, oh my God, Spyderco has all these options. So I got some titanium and I got this deep carry clip. This was one of the China made ones. I got a new ball cage for my Manix 2. I got a new spring for the Manix 2 to make it a different tension for the closing mechanism. And I got this Manix. I just wanted to try out a Manix, and then I realized it was fully customizable, and so I did it. And I should also point out that I heat anodized all this. So I looked up online, and I did a lot of research and reading, and I learned how to heat anodize. And so I heat anodized this blue, I heat anodized this deep carry clip blue, and I heat anodized this spacer copper color, or bronze copper color. This is actually bronze. I did not heat anodize that. So this totally customized Manix 2 was a fun little project, and I had a lot of fun learning about it. The next thing, I kind of went off and I realized that there are some companies that do the customization for you, and they do different levels of it. So this is a Demko titanium scales. This is the thin one, not the fatter old one. This is the 3V version, and also it has the upgraded mid-tech hardware. And I sent it to Way of Knife and EDC Gearhouse, and I said I bought one of their packages. Now they do a lot of customization, and you can choose exactly what you want, or you can spend a certain amount of money, and you can give them buy an artistic freedom and a basic artistic freedom package. I sent in for an artistic freedom package, and you can give them one sentence or one word that you wanted to customize. I said sci-fi, they went with Mars Attacks. So they did the Ak guy. And if you don't know that movie, look it up. Mars Attacks. It's very funny. I had a deep carry lynch clip here. They did a McNasty finish on it. They did these stickers on it. They also laser etched the knife. And now I have basically a piece of crazy art, right? With this custom sticker, this custom anodizing on the scales, and this is something that's one of a kind, and I can show it to people, and they think it's amazing and great, right? I also sent in for a basic package for their customization, and I sent in the TR3. This is the Magna Cup version. This was all black, and they added the fish scale coloring, and they made this white up here, and they sanded that off, and they sanded the button off to make it shiny, and they also took the clip, and they took the DLC coating off of that. They didn't do anything to the blade or anything. Now, the reason why I did that is because this is a pretty plain Jane knife. Oh, they did laser etch. I forgot. They laser etched the blade, too, with the fish scales. This is a pretty plain Jane knife. I can't carry this knife around where I currently live because of stupid knife laws. Nothing automatic. This is illegal. So it was already something that I wasn't going to carry around. So I decided to send it in to them, see what they would do. And I'm not disappointed with the results. The ProTech in general is my favorite American company at the moment, although TRM is a close second. And there's other companies that I really like too that manufacture in the United States, obviously. But something about TRM or ProTech that I really like. So again, I will link Way of Knife, but this is some really nice quality work. They also do. You get a lot of you can get as much or as little input as you want. And the prices are astonishingly cheap. And sometimes their services go on sale too. You really should check them out because some of their finishes and their titanium finishes are just incredible. I think I have covered everything that's on this table and what I like about different customizations. Let me just recap real fast. There are scales that you can choose and you can customize. There are clips that you can change out so that it's more to your suiting. There are companies that will take and customize knives for you with input from you. So that's all I have for you guys today. This was part one. Part two is going to be, I'm going to do a how-to, and I'm going to take a knife, and I've ordered a bunch of parts, and I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to fully customize it, and part two, which will be coming out in a few days to a week, depending on when all the parts come out. Thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it and subscribe if you can, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.